to be able to help people develop their budgets and get their budgets together to get out of debt. He's showing people how to get out of debt within 18 months to 3 years or so. It may take a little longer, maybe a little shorter. It's according to how you work the plan. But the same plan that they're teaching, I was able to get out of debt some years ago, and now here I am buying houses with cash. Never thought I'd be able to say I would buy houses with cash money when God said you'll be the lender, not the borrower. I never really could fancy it. I said, oh yeah, I loan people $50. That's what I was thinking in my mind. But then recently, probably about 6 months ago or so, I did my first hard money loan as a lender. And so it's all about being able to leverage your finances. But first of all, you need to learn how to manage your finances. Because if you can't manage your finance, you won't be able to purchase homes. And right now, when you get your money and your portfolio together, then people will give you their money, right? They'll let you borrow their money to do stuff to use and risk their money because your credit is good. But anyways, that's not what we get into, but I wanted to let you all know what he's here for. He's here for today. He taught our coaches. Today he's going to teach you at 1. Then tomorrow at 8 and 11 a.m. he's preaching. He's going to preach to us about finances and how God wants us to be blessed. I know some people say they don't agree with that in church, but the Bible talks about prosperity more than anything else in the Bible. If you read it, I promise you, you will see what I'm talking about. So a lot of people, when they fuss about people talking about prosperity, and there's no such thing as prosperity, blah, 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 in the Bible, it's that spirit of debt and that demonic spirit of poverty that's on their life that don't want to let them go. So my job, I believe, is to help people, to empower people to curate wealth. That's one of my purposes. That's one of my goals. When I see somebody walking down the street and they're not exercising, it just hurts my heart. I'm like, why don't I have a car? I need them to have a car. It bothers me. So I always want to empower people to curate wealth. And one of the easiest ways, if not the easiest ways to curate wealth, is through home ownership. And so that's why we're here today. God says he owns a cattle on 1,000 hills. I always tell God, you keep the cattle, give me the hills, because you got to pay me the rent for the cows to be on the hills. That's just how I think. You understand? You can give me the cattle too, but give me the hills first, because I want to own the land and the property and the real estate. Okay? So I say this all the time. The more self-made millionaires are in real estate than any other occupation or profession or hobby or investing, whatever it is. Anybody that deals with real estate, those are the most self-made millionaires in America, okay? And the only entity that actually curates more money than real estate is the government. But the government can cheat. You know what they do? If they run out of money, they can print some more. We can't print any more money. The government is in trillions of dollars of debt. They say that every time an election come around, if Trump running, he gonna say it's debt. If Biden running, he gonna say it's debt. Everybody blame the other person for debt, but we just have debt. But real estate is a constant of millionaires being made, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's a recession, or whether it's through good times. Real estate always, in the end, will bring you wealth. Why? Because it appreciates. Rarely does it depreciate. Even when it doesn't depreciate, what? We write it off on our taxes. We say it depreciated, but it really didn't. And it's legal. And what? We get money back from tax instead of paying it. So that's why we want to take advantage of Brother Joe Sangle, who said he would teach us this class, give us his knowledge. He's going to teach us about commercial real estate, apartments, multifamilies, and he's also going to talk about some of the stock options and things that he does. He ain't going to tell you what you should do, but he's going to let you know what he does, and if you mimic him, maybe you'll make some money. But I'm not saying to do it or not do it. Just like a lawyer. Hey, my job to teach you how to do real estate. I don't know how to teach you how to do stocks, but he does, all right? First of all, let me introduce some people for a minute. First of all, Mr. Yana, stand up right quick. Mr. Yana in the back. That's my CEO for Maxwell Realty in the back. Her son is with her. I can't see the sun is out here. I see is that one of my agents? Can you see? Stand up, my God. Help me, Lord. I got my agents out anymore. Go, Mr. Warner right here. Man, why I can't think of your name, Shira? Peggy, dadgummit. Peggy. Peggy is in the house. I'm sorry. I was about to say her last name instead of her first name, just like a good church person. You my agent too now, right? Hold on. T.A. Tanya. Tamara. See, I got to name. See, they just got here, so I got to get the names now. Miss Tamara, stand up. Go ahead, let them see you. See, look at that. Equal opportunity. I got a black one and a white one. Look at that, boy. Equal opportunity real estate coming in. How you doing? But we thank them so much for being a part of Maxwell Realty, so we want them to learn as well. Tawana's my veteran agent. She's been around for so long. We just thank her so much for her expertise, all right? Anyway, and I see some real estate investors that have invested with me before. Thank y'all for being here. Without further ado, let's call Joe Sango.
Yep. Appreciate it. This guy right here has got a lot of energy. I love it. We found out we're the same age. It's awesome. We're still 29. It's amazing. I'm so excited for this. I'm just going to be very clear. I've done a lot of real estate investing. I enjoy it a lot, but I don't teach it a lot. So when I was talking with Pastor about our weekend here, I saw Overflow Investors, and I said, tell me more about that. And then I said, I would love to be able to share the real numbers of some of our stuff and be able to share that with you guys. Would that make sense? And he was like, let's go. So I'm excited about it. I'm going to have multiple opportunities for you to ask questions. I would like this to be a conversation. So if something like gets you confused or something, just blurt it out, raise your hand. You don't have to raise your hand. We're not really in class. I'd love to be able to help you however I can. Because, as Pastor said, there's a massive difference in the net worth of an individual who chooses to own real estate and those who do not. And really, it is a substantial wealth-building tool. And so I'm going to talk about investing in multi-unit apartments. Who's interested in owning multi-unit apartments? Okay? Now, I'll just tell you, the analysis and the analytical tool, you can use it for single families. You can use it for duplexes. You can use it for fourplexes. You can use it for 100-unit apartment complexes, okay? But the tool is geared towards multi-unit apartment complexes, okay? Now, I want to tell you some background. So Proverbs 14:4 is my operating verse. It's my investing verse. And it says, where there are no oxen, there's an empty manger, but from the strength of an ox comes what? Abundant harvest. Who wants abundant harvest? And this was a revelation to me that said, you know, in the old days, the agrarian society, they used oxen if they wanted to have an abundant harvest. If they did it by hand, they would have a nice garden. But if they wanted abundance, they needed to use oxen. And the same thing, even though you and I may not live on a farm today, we need financial oxen to help us produce abundant harvest. And they can take many forms, but really a financial ox is anything that produces income for you without you having to carry the whole burden. You'll have to guide it, right? Left alone, an oxen will wander around the pasture, eat all your food, and leave you a bunch of presents, right? You got to lead them to the yoke, train them to the yoke, and then guide them, okay? And so we're going to talk about this in detail. Now, there's some factors that affect my personal investment approach. Yours may be different, but I want you to understand what's driving me. And so as we go through this, I just want to share it with you. And I will send this to Pastor, and he can send this presentation to you, okay? Or you can take pictures, all that stuff. I'm fine with that. The first one is I have accountability. My accountability is to the Lord. It's to my family. It's to my team. We have 28 members on our team. It's to my community. It's to the nation and then to the world. And it's in that order. Does that make sense? And so when I'm making decisions, it's not just for Joe Sangle. It shouldn't be just for you either, okay? I also want to live a fully funded life. And that is to be able to live out my calling that God has placed in my heart to fund kingdom work, to fund the God-given plans, hopes, and dreams He's placed in my heart. What does it say in Psalm 37:4? Delight yourself in the Lord and what? He'll give you the desires of your heart, okay? And so God puts desires in our heart. And so I want to make sure that I live that fully funded life. And then I'm interested in streams of income. Diversification is mentioned by Solomon in Ecclesiastes 11:2, says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, and 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. And so he's talking about diversification. I want a minimum of 3 streams of income by the time I retire. And when I guide people, I'm saying you need to have at least 3 streams headed your way. Social Security can be one, a defined pension can be one, real estate can be one, a 401k can be one. Does that make sense? But at least 3. And I'm not talking about equal ones. I'm not looking for equality. I'm just looking for 3 streams, okay? It's hard for all of them to dry up at once. And then I want to have a clear goal for each stream. Is it for immediate cash flow? Is it for retirement? Is it for legacy? Okay? And there's a goal for each time I make a decision. There's a couple other. I like partnerships. Partnerships help me go farther, faster. And there's a good set of questions that should drive you. How far do you want to go? How fast do you want to get there? Does that make sense? And that will drive decision making. And when I look at partnerships, I want to go with known entities. I want to have clear and legal contracts so that people don't develop early onset Alzheimer's and forget what you and I agreed to. And similar goals, I want similar goals, and I want them to be winning with their money. I'm not doing deals with broke people. Broke people behave very oddly in deals because they're desperate to get their cash back. It has to work. And they're unwilling to take on risk at the level that they think they are willing to. And then I want to move. I believe God honors movement. How about you? In fact, I look through the Word and I see miracles happening with movement. When God says move, let's think about it. Do you remember the man with the shriveled hand? What did Jesus tell him? Stretch forth your hand. That's when he was moved. That's when he was healed, was when he moved. When did Peter walk on water? When he moved out of the boat. Jesus said, walk my way. And he walked this way. It was unbelievable. And then you talk about the guy, the paralyzed man. When did he get healed? When Jesus told him to get up and walk. I dare you to go to a paralyzed man today and tell him to walk. But Jesus knew the power in his hands. And God honors movement. When he tells you to move, you got to move. Okay? Even if it's uncomfortable, you got to move. And then I want to talk about this word called prepared patience. Now, I know some of you are saying, if I wanted patience, I'd become a doctor. I understand that. But there is a season of preparation, especially when it comes to real estate. And let me unpack what I mean by prepared patience, okay? The first one is get education. While you're waiting, prepare yourself with education. How did I do it? I did it through mentors, with books, with conferences, with podcasts. I will tell you, the unequivocal favorite podcast I've listened to for real estate is Bigger Pockets. If you look up that podcast, Bigger Pockets podcast, in particular, the episodes pre-2020, I feel like they are the absolute best. There's about 500 of them before 2020. They interview real-world real estate investors in all sorts of real estate. Single families, car washes, storage units, trailer parks, multi-units, and everything in between. And they make them share real numbers. And you will learn from them greatly. Okay, so I encourage you. I learned from those. When I was running, I run a lot, and when I'm running, I'm listening to podcasts. Does that make sense? And I listen to a 1.5 speed, right? Because I want to get through the podcast while I'm running. And so I'm prepared patience. Getting on email list. So I went to the high-octane, high-protein real estate salespeople. And there's a lot of them in this room. And I said, this is what I'm looking for. Put me on your list. And anytime a deal like that hit within my parameters, I'm getting the email. Does that make sense? I have no money for a deal, but I'm on the list. Do you know why? Because I'm clicking on every deal, and I'm evaluating the deal because I'm getting ready. I want to know what things are going for, what's a good price, what's happening in the neighborhood. Does that make sense? Because that helps me know and get a nose for whether or not a deal is a deal, and should I investigate it? Should I explore it? And so I was on the email list. Get on the email list. Listen, get spammed. Hey, you get spammed with enough stuff, you might as well get spammed by the real estate agent with some good deals. Make sense? Some will be bad, but then have some conversations. Bigger Pockets also has forums, and there's meetups. You can go to real estate gatherings. You can meet attorneys there, closing attorneys. You can meet insurance agents. You can meet title company representatives. You can meet people that are actually investors, and you can learn from them, okay? Very important. And then, in my prepared patience, I was getting prepared financially. I was using the easy budgeting technique, exactly zero, giving every dollar a name, making George Washington's wooden teeth rattle, stretching it so far, right? Because I knew that I had a why that was driving me. Make sense? How many of you know it takes some dollars to do some deals? Okay? And then I was building that opportunity fund. And my final thing is, I was doing deal analysis. I started doing regular evaluation of deals. How much money does this need to sell for me to be able to make money on it? What makes this deal work? What value add could I do this deal? You know, what could I do? You know, and it helped me start understanding what cap rate means and what the down payment is typical. What is the type of loans that are available for this thing? How would a partnership be structured? I started evaluating that. Does that make sense? Why? Because I was getting ready. Because let me tell you something. You can tell me you're headed somewhere, that I'm going to invest in real estate. But if you're not doing any of the preparation, I will tell you there's no way you're going to get there. There has to be this prepared patience. Does that make sense? And so it's really important to think about that. Now, I took my first plunge into real estate in 2010. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of my journey, and then I'll deep dive in a couple deals. Okay? So I bought an abandoned subdivision in 2010. It's about 52 properties, 68.605 acres. Okay? How did I know about this deal? A real estate agent sent it to me because I was on the list. Does that make sense? And she said, hey, there's 26 acres that are available. How many did I say I bought? 68.605. I know it to the thousandth of an acre. But I got this deal opportunity sent to me via Facebook. The agent sent it to me. Said there's 26.4 acres available for sale. What was happening in 2010? It was the financial problems, right? And I found out that the person that had put it on the market had gotten into some deals with partners in some deals in Charleston, South Carolina, and his two partners had went bankrupt, and he was on the hook for the whole deal. And to avoid bankruptcy, he was fire selling some stuff. I left my desk immediately. I had dress clothes on, a brand new dress shirt, and I left my desk. I didn't even change clothes, and I destroyed that shirt. Walking through briars, everything. I'm like, it was for sale for $50,000, 26 acres. I'm like, is there nuclear waste on this place? Is it glowing green? What is wrong with this property? And you know, listen, here's the deal. If you have not prepared, listen, that could have been for sale for $5,000, but if you're not prepared, you will not see it. You just cannot see it. You have to position yourself. And so I was positioned. I had saved money. I had an opportunities fund. And I'm walking this whole property, and as I'm walking the property, the agent told me, hey, you know, this person actually owns the adjacent 42 acres, and they'd probably be willing to sell that too. And then she told me who owned it. And I'm like, I know that guy. I know of him. So I picked up the phone and called him. Get fired up. And I said, hey, I'm looking at this property. You're selling it for $50,000. What's going on? And he shared with me what was going on. And then I said, hey, I understand you own a little over 40 acres adjacent to it. What are you doing with that? He's like, Joe, it's probably a gold mine, but I've got to get rid of it. I own it outright. But Joe, listen, I would rather go to you because I actually know you than somebody else. I'll sell it all to you for $100K. And I was like, what? And then he just kept talking and said, in fact, if you can close in 15 days, I'll sell it to you for 80. I got real fired up. And I came to the agent. She didn't even know I'd made the phone call. I said, you know, I'm inclined to make an offer. I really like this property. I would like to offer for all of it $80,000. And she looked at me in horror, like, I can't bring that offer to him. That's unrealistic. But she didn't know I'd had a conversation. Hey, sometimes you got to be bold. You know why? Because your bold moments become your best moments. And I will tell you, He accepted the deal. We closed in 11 days, and I bought that property for $80K. If you don't think financial crashes come during your life, 2 or 3 times during your lifetime, just go look at history and be prepared with some powder, as they call it. Make sense? That's a miracle God performed for me. It is worth a lot more than that today, okay? But I believe God gave it to me as a gift to give away. And I'm going to give this farm away when I die. And my goal is to build it a perpetual endowment fund and give it away as a park for the county that I live in. That's my goal. I've told my kids, do not fall in love with this one. I believe God gave it to me to give it away. And I love it. I love, love, love it because God gave it to me as a gift. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's an investment, but it's a long-term investment. Okay, so that's my first exposure. And I want to tell you a couple things. Deals show up when other D's happen. Write these down. Deals show up when other D's happen. Distress. I got that deal because of distress. It shows up because of divorce. It shows up because of disease. And it shows up because of death. When those types of things are happening, it causes movement. It forces movement. Right? When distress happens, when divorce is happening, when disease is happening, and when death happens, deals will show up. And are we to take advantage of somebody in their time of need? Well, they listed it. Does that make sense? And so, did it work for him? He was able to make it through his deal, and he did not declare bankruptcy, and the Lord has made it up to him. Does that make sense? And so I would just encourage you to think about that. That's when deals show up, okay? So then now you hear about that property, but when I bought the property, this is what it looked like. Isn't that awesome? It has a fence, and I drove onto it, and they had this beautiful house with a dumpster dumped on it. Isn't that awesome? When I drove on the property, the door was open. When I drove back off the property, the door was closed, which freaked me out. And I found out somebody was living in it, somebody that was homeless. And so we cleaned the place up, and that building was actually owned by the previous owner, and he actually had it hauled away because he had financed that too. Okay? And so I just kind of wanted to share some pictures here. Sometimes when you buy something, I don't know why this isn't clicking to the next slide. It decided to die on me. Here we go. There we go. See that nice trash? Isn't that awesome? But you know what? 20 truckloads later, she was cleaned up, spotless. And we got to practice our Boy Scout principles of leave no trace. And we cleaned it up. Okay? Now I did deal number 2, and I did deal number 2 in 2016, 6 years later, real estate deal. It was a commercial lot. Our team was growing, and I had just signed a deal to rent the space that we were occupying, and I signed a deal, and the monthly rent was $7,000 a month. And there was increases each year, and I realized on my 3-year lease I just signed, I had just spent $250,000. And I said, this is the last time I'm going to sign a lease deal. It's time for our business to own. And so I bought a commercial lot to build an office on, and I found 2.79 acres. They had it listed for $90,000. And I made an offer for $70,000, and I said I would close before the end of the year, and they took the deal, okay? And so we bought the property for $70,000. And you can see the little pin down here, and it's actually at an intersection right near Interstate 85. Has anybody ever bought a Ryobi tool, the green tools at Home Depot? Well, their North American headquarters is in our town, and they announced 1 month after I bought it that they were going to build a 1 million square foot facility, kitty corner across the interstate from me. Well, that was good news. I got 4 offers on that property that I paid $70,000 for last year. 4 offers, started with $100,000. How much did I pay for it? 70. Well, they offered 100, and then they offered 125, and then they offered 150, and then they offered me 175, and I had to break up with it. And we closed on that deal, and we made $105,000 on that deal in 7 years. Does that make sense? Is that pretty good? It's pretty good, okay? And then in 2020, at the 1st of March, I entered a deal to buy a 14-unit apartment complex. At the start of March 2020, I finally decided to dive in the deep end of the pool. I signed the contract, and then COVID happened. Get fired up. But I had margin, and I said, I'm going to do the deal. And we went and we bought this deal. And you can look at it. You can see it's right here. So you see these buildings right here. There's 3 buildings and like a half building, right? There's 4 units per big building, and then there's a little half unit there with 2 units. And then when you back out, you can see it's across the street from, you can see the little fork there at Lori's Wild Ridge. You see that there? If so, say yes. Okay, right across the street is Walmart. Get fired up. People like to be near Walmart, it turns out. And so we entered into that deal, and 6 months later, the owner of that one said, hey, I like doing deals with you. I have a 12-unit. Do you want that deal? Get fired up. And he offered to owner finance it to us with unbelievable terms, okay? So I'm going to talk about these 2 deals as we go through it. Now, as I looked at this deal here, this is a grainy picture that was from Google Earth. You know, they drive around and take pictures. Hey, this is a great tip. If you haven't done this, go to Google Maps and just drive down the street, you know, so to speak, virtually, and look at the properties. You can do a lot of investigating before you ever see the property with your own eyes. When I drove past it, however, I realized there was a brand new parking lot, brand new roof, and it had been re-sided. I was like, hey, they've done some capital improvements. This is good. And then I did deal number 5 in 2021. I bought 238 acres. And so right now, I saw this deal. I have had maybe 250 deals sent to me on land. I live in South Carolina, and I have a 100-mile radius, and I have my agent, my land agent, sends me these deals. I see 2 or 3 deals a week. How many of those deals do you think I evaluate? 100% of them. I click on every one of them. Anything greater than 40 acres gets sent to me. Boom, I click through them. I look at all the pictures. Why do I do that? Because I want to know. I want to know. I need to know. I need to know. I need to know. I need to know. And the 68 acres, I like hunting. I like fishing. I like outdoor. I like dirt biking. I like all this stuff. And so I'm on the 68 acres, my subdivision, and I'm recreating on it. And I'm out there, and I can hear kids playing in the yard. And I'm like, you know, hunting seems like a bad idea with kids playing in the yard. It seems real. I'm doing it safely, but it's just... And I came home and I told my bride, I said, hey, the neighborhood's been completed now around it. And man, I really would love to have some more land that doesn't have a bunch of people living near it so I can recreate without driving people crazy. There's something about speaking stuff out loud. I don't understand it. It's really weird. But in 10 days, I kid you not, this deal showed up. 238 acres. I thought it was mispriced. I immediately called the agent. She said it's not mispriced. I think they got in a dispute with the south side neighbor and they're just wanting to get out of it. And so I said, I want to go look at it right now. I left my desk. I drove the property. I picked up my wife, my dog, and my daughter, my youngest daughter. That's us walking it. I made an offer that night, and it was accepted that night as an owner finance deal at 4%. And I saw those. What are those? Do you guys see it? The trees. What do you see? Ooh. Ooh. Those are big trees. I see white oaks. I see pines. And right now, I have, let's pull it up right now. I entered into a logging contract. And as of yesterday, we have 261 semi-trailers of logs off that property. And that's only 120 acres or so of it. And let me tell you something. It turns out some people really value my trees. And they've paid us a bunch of money for the trees. Does that make sense? Plus, I've had the fun of learning about logging. And we're replanting it all, and it's awesome. And so, are there any questions about the deals I've done so far? And then I'll dive into the deal deep dive. Yes? Yeah, she's saying the first deal where you bought it, the $80,000 deal, did I develop the property or people living on the property? I did not develop that property. When God gave me that property, I believe it's very clear to me that God gave it to me to give it away, undeveloped and unspoiled, to clean it up, to put nature trails in it, and to build an endowment fund that actually pays for professional upkeep perpetually beyond my life, and to give it away. And so it's going to be an investment in my community when I pass on. And so me and my bride are in lockstep on that. So in the meantime, our family's enjoying it, and I take tons of people out to it, but we did not develop it. I could, 46 acres or so of it are able to be developed. I'm just choosing not to. I don't know if you know, but the I-95 corridor is like a vacuum getting people from New Jersey and New York down to South Carolina and Florida and Georgia. I mean, our population growth is outrageous because we have almost no taxes, and it's warmer, and people desire to be in Myrtle Beach and Charleston and Hilton Head, and as a result, huge quantities of people have moved to our area, and I've just chosen not to develop it to keep some green spaces because I'm somewhat of a tree hugger, even though I'm logging some. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What profit am I making off the first deal? It's a great question. I could sell it right now for probably 5x what I bought it for. But I really, in some way, view it as a first fruits that the Lord has gave me, and I'm going to give it back to him. So I'm choosing not to profit on it. Does that make sense? So I've just chosen to keep it, and I'm going to give it away. I'm not going to sell it. So it's not going to make me any money. It only cost me an $80,000 investment, and I feel like it is almost like a theft of a deal, and so a steal of a deal, and I've just chosen not to have it pay me money back. It's an asset on the books that eventually will be a charitable donation. Make sense? Okay, great. Okay, now let's talk about this deal. Now this is a 14 unit. They're all 1-1s, okay? Up, down, 1-1. So 1 bedroom, 1 baths, okay? Who occupies 1-1s? Single people or couples. Usually not with kids. Make sense? A lot of retirees like this, okay? It was nearly 100% occupied when we bought it. It was 100% occupied and had maintained about 100% occupancy. It had been well managed, and capital investment had continued to happen. They had maintained the property well. It was being sold due to divorce and a death, okay? And so the guy was like, hey, I'm done with this. And so he was moving it on. And so when we look at it, I have a 9-step to a deal. I'm going to put this up here multiple times, but we're going to dive into the deep details of how I evaluate deals. Everybody has their own process. You can take a picture of this. It's going to be on the page multiple times. Okay? So the first step is you got to find a deal. So I was approached by another investor who had found the deal. You've got to open up your channels that bring you deals. Okay? So here's what I know. I'm going to explain this real quickly. There's 3 things necessary to pull off a deal. Real estate, buying a business, whatever the investment is. Somebody's got to find the deal. Some people have a nose for a deal. Does that make sense? They just can see a deal, they can sniff it out. It's a gift. So somebody's got to find the deal. The second thing is somebody's got to have dollars to get the deal, okay? And the third thing is somebody's got to be willing to work it once you get it. You've got to have all 3. And a lot of people will say, what's the hardest part of those 3 things? Tell me, Talk to me. What's the hardest part of those three things? Money, getting it to close. You're saying working it. See, it's different based on where you're at, right? When I was starting out, the dollars was the hardest part. I could find a deal, but I didn't have the money. Can I get a witness? Okay? But once you get money, you may find yourself devoid of time to work it. And here is the teaching. If you can do two of those things, you can always get the third. Okay? So if you do not have money and you're here today and you're like, man, I would love to do real estate, but I just don't have the dollars to pull it off. If you can find the deal and you're willing to work the deal, and you have proof and evidence that you know how to work the deal, which is, in this case, you can manage the property, right? Then you can attract the dollars. Make sense? And then if you have the dollars and you can find the deal, you can pay somebody to work it, a management group. Does that make sense? So I was approached by another investor who had found this deal. I had put the word out, this is what I'm interested in. They brought me this deal. They offered the chance at participation in the deal, and they used a pitch deck. If you don't know what the word pitch deck means, just Google it and type in the words real estate pitch deck. There are thousands of templates that are available for free, and really it is the art of the deal. It is Shark Tank in a concise document that basically says, here's why I would like you to be interested in investing in my deal. And it will say, here's the financials, here's the ways we can improve it, here's where it's located, here's the particulars, the details, all the stuff related to pulling off a real estate deal. Does that make sense? The word pitch deck is really related to pitching people, the sales pitch, so to speak, to be a part of the deal. So this person had said, hey, would you be interested in learning about this deal? Check mark yes. Okay, I'm having an investor pitch meeting at this date and time. I'm going to send you a Zoom link. Make sense? So I sat through the pitch deck, and then we started asking questions, and there was some initial data gathering. Here's my initial data that I gather. Okay, I'm going to send you this whole presentation, and it's in my analysis tool. But we started saying, what is the price per unit? Okay? So it's really the offering price divided by the number of doors. Okay? What does the rent rolls look like? Who's renting it? You usually have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get access to the rent rolls. So it's basically giving your name and information and email address. What is the value of the land and what is the value of the building? Why is that important, real estate folks? Huh? Okay. Yes. Huh? Cost per square foot. You have to give your number. Why is it important that I say this is the value of the land and this is the value of the dwelling? Is the structure make sense to keep, or is it better to just push it down? That could be part of it. The answer I'm looking for is you can only depreciate the value of the building. You cannot depreciate land. So the government requires you to have clear definition of the value of the dwelling and the value of the property. You can only depreciate a fictional expense, but it is real, the 27.5-year depreciation of the dwelling. Does that make sense? So you want to really know what that assessed value of the land is versus the value of the property. Any questions about that? Okay. So then the facility information. What's the historical vacancy rate? How much money have they spent on capital expenditures? Question. Yeah, maintenance record. Here's my decision was, my dad did single families growing up. And is anybody here own single families? Anybody? Yeah. Well, the number one reason why people don't want to own single families is, they're going to call me at Christmas Eve and the toilet stopped up and I have to fix the toilet, blah, 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 blah. The reason I don't want to own single families is because I'm either 100% rented or 100% vacant. And by having a multi-unit, I can diversify my rent base. So I might be 13 14ths rented, 12 14ths rented, but if I'm 0 14ths rented, something's really bad. Make sense? So I like it. It diversifies it. Plus, you know, it turns out they put in contractor faucets, Kohler faucets in every one of them. Well, if they failed in 5 of them already, I know I just need to buy the other 9 right now because they all going to die. And so I can get history of maintenance stuff, okay? And that's a big deal on capital expenditures. I also can look at all the operating expenses, insurance, maintenance. Is there snow removal, lawn, landscaping, management fees, property taxes, advertising, trash, utilities, legal and accounting? All that stuff matters, and it's in my worksheet, right? And you can go get all this information. How? You can call the power company. Here's the address. What's the historical price paid? You can look up on the GIS land survey. What's the exact survey of the property? What's the property taxes of it? What's its current assessed value? How much more than that am I paying? Okay? And then other data. What is the ultimate purchase price? What is going to be the down payment required? Talk to the bank. What's the mortgage loan look like? What are they offering as far as amortization term? Is it a 20-year, a 25-year, 30-year? Is it a fixed term? How long is the fixed term? What's the interest rate? A side note that I just shared before this event here. If you're buying a 4-unit or less house, hear me on this. If you're buying a 4-unit, a triplex, a duplex, or a single family, you can put it on a conforming mortgage, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Conforming means conforms to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines. The last I checked, you can have 8 of those mortgages, okay? That's a big deal, okay? If you're more than 4 units, you're going to go to a commercial loan, okay? Generally, the fixed term can be 5, 10 years. You're probably going to pay 1.5 to 2 percentage points above the federal overnight funds rate, okay? If you have excellent credit. And then I wanted closing costs. What's it going to cost? Am I going to put it in an LLC? If so, what is that? What's the property insurance? What's the property inspection? What's the cash required to close? Are there any questions about all these expenses? It's a lot of expenses, isn't it? Get fired up. Okay? So this is my deal. This is my deal sheet. So I looked at it, and they were offering it for $742,000. Well, we were thinking about offering that. They wanted $793,000. Guess who values the property the most? The buyer or the seller? The seller. Who values it the least? The buyer. And, you know, the deal is in the middle, maybe. And so we were thinking about $742,000. This is on the pitch deck. It's 14 units. The rent per unit is $580 a unit. Okay? So this is considered C-class real estate. C-class. Okay? The annual property taxes, 9,125% vacancy allowance. Cost per unit, well, it's 742 divided by 14 is $53,000 a door. A common thing in multi-unit is how much are you paying per door, okay? And then we looked at 25% down payment, 4.5% interest rate, 2020, okay? 20-year loan amortization. Here's the purchase price, there's the less the down payment, here's what we'll owe. Well, there was a lot of unanswered questions here. This was initial data gathering. So then we went and started adding data. Okay, there's property management, because I'm not going to manage property. I know me. If I show up to fix a leak, I'll leave 5 hours later. There will now be 8 leaks. I'll have used my entire limit of Christian cuss words, and my personal health, mental health will be in the gullet. You know what I'm saying? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Is anybody here like super handy? Like you're good at that? Yeah, see? Fine, you're the management company, right? But you don't want Joe Sengel showing up. It's going to be bad, okay? So I automatically, in my deals, put in management. And I will not do the deal if it does not include management. I am not doing it. Because I'm an engineer, and I think I can, and after I've watched 71 YouTube videos, I still can't, okay? So I'm just not, okay? And so we got more data, and so we started looking at different details in here, and we started looking at things that banks look at. Banks look at things like cash-on-cash return, debt service coverage ratio, which is your net operating income divided by your debt. What's your cap rate? What's this look like? We started running through different things. And so we had all this initial data, and then there's questions. So my next thing is, let's get clarification. This is before the deal's ever pulled off. Clarification of questions. And so I started asking questions. Rent improvements. Where can we add value? What is the market rate? There's a great website called Rentometer. It looks like Rentometer. You can type in specific addresses, and it will tell you what the going rate is for rents. Okay? That matters a lot when you're doing this. Now, I'm sitting here, and I have some core fundamental rules. I do want to build wealth, but I do not want to rip people off. I also want to treat people awesome. I've been a renter before. I know what it's like to be treated well. I know what it's like to be treated unwell, okay? And so I'll just say we have fundamental rules for our company. We said, if you call with a maintenance request, you will be acknowledged with your maintenance request within 1 hour, and we will show up within 24 hours. The person who shows up will be wearing our shirt with our logo. They will smell good, and they will fix your problem or give you a date certain if we don't have the part to have it fixed. Does that make sense? And guess what? Because of that, no one leaves. And as a result, we're looking at it and saying, okay, where can we do cost improvements? Where can we remove cost? Where can we improve cost? If we can't remove it completely, where can we improve them? And then management agreements. Who's going to manage it? If we have multiple partners, how are decisions going to be made? Up to including, when do we sell it? Disposition of the asset. And then who has the final say if there's a disagreement? Somebody's got to have the final say. And then what are the goals for this property? You know, how long do we want to hold it? What's the goal? And then we went to the point where we came to an agreement and said we're going to make an offer. So we made an offer, and when we got to the offer, just to be clear, for this property we offered $700,000 subject to an inspection and successful addressing of those issues. Okay? We made an offer of $700,000. He accepted our offer. There was no counteroffer. Okay? So we got an accepted offer. We had the inspection, and there was some water that was in some of the crawl space, and he knew of that issue, and it was going to be about $6,000 to put in some sump pumps to make sure that goes out. And he said, I'm just going to take that off the purchase price. So we ended up getting $6,000 back at closing, and so we ended up with this deal. And we went to the bank, who was already made aware that we were in negotiations for a deal, and we went to a bank for this deal. And I'm a small business owner. Employee people, you can just submit your W-2s and the banks are like, and it's unbelievable. When you're a small business owner, you have to submit paperwork equal to feet deep of paperwork. This is no joke. Has any small business owner seen this? I finally got so frustrated with the bank that I said, how far are we going here? Are you going for 18 inches of paper or 19 inches of paper? I'm not kidding. This is exactly what I said to them. I have written documentation of it. Because I said, I have printed it out, and right now it is 12 inches worth. Why? Because for some reason, they'll take a W-2 from some company. They don't even check the finances of that company. But if you own the company, oh, they got to know everything. So you better have really good audited financial documents, okay? So I did that, and I submitted, and I think it was about 14 inches of paperwork, and they finally did the deal, okay? And we closed on the deal, okay? So how did we do? So when we look at it, it ended up being 3 partners who invested $53,000 each, $159,000 total down payment, and to pre-fund the capital account. And I have rules for my real estate. These are my rules. You should have your own rules. But my rules are, I'm putting in money once. I do not want a cash call. I don't want a call coming 2-3 years saying, we need some money, the roof is blah, blah, blah. I would rather put in extra money up front, and I would also say I don't want any money coming to me, no cash flow, until we're satisfied that the capital margin account, the operating account, is strong enough that it can handle the biggest of financial crisis. Does that make sense? So the first couple months, it collected all the rents, and any profits just went to further build the capital account. And then we started making payments, okay, to us of $300 a month. So I put in $53,000. I had a personal rule at this time that I wanted a minimum of 6% cash-on-cash return. Okay? So that means cash to me. So what is 6% of 53,000? Come on, math folks. Just pull it up on your Apple phone. 3180. So is 300 a month, do 3180 divided by 12. Okay, so is 300 beat 265? So it's meeting my requirement of a minimum of 6% cash-on-cash return. And my other rule was I want a net total return of 12% a year, which is cash flow plus increase in value of house and decrease in principal balance owed, so equity gain by mortgage paydown. Make sense? Okay? So net total 12%. Okay? It started performing well. In June 2021, we were able to go to $400 a month per investor. Is that pretty good? Somebody do 4,800 divided by 53,000. Somebody do that math. What percent is that? What's it come out to be? Around 9? Let's do 4,800 divided by 53,000. 9.05%. Is that pretty good? Okay. And then we got to have a bonus distribution in 2021 of $1,000 per partner, and in 2022 we got $1,200 a person. Get fired up. Woo! And guess I can retire now. And then we increased the cash flow payments in January of 2023 to $500 a month. Notice there was no cash distribution in December of 2023 because we kind of gobbled that up, that extra, with the extra $100 a month. Okay, so now I'm making $6,000 a year on my $53,000 investment. Make sense? This does not count equity gain by pay down and growth in value of the property. Okay? Now, my net rental income that has happened each year is listed here, and my equity gain by debt pay down is here. This assumes zero gain in property value. I don't think the property has really increased a lot in value because interest rates went up. Okay, so I want to just share a couple things that are really important to think about. When we were doing this investing in March of 2020, and then our subsequent 12 unit in 6 months later, what were interest rates paying on savings accounts? Anybody remember? Yeah, 0.1 to 0.5%. So when I say cash on cash return of 6%, that's a spread of at least 5.5%. Does that make sense? Now what are interest rates on a U.S. Treasury right now? Well, let me tell you, I was bidding in the Treasury auction this week, and I bought 8-week, 13-week, 17-week, and 26-week Treasuries, and they all locked in at an average of 5.37%. Okay? So 5.37%, it's really important for those of you who have savings. Treasuries have no state income taxes and no local income taxes. That's a big deal. So you have a 5.75% tax on anything over $17,000 in Virginia, and that's guaranteed 5.75% if you have more income than that with your taxable interest. Okay? So when we look at this, the cash on cash return has been really good every year. 2023 was more challenging because it turns out one of our guys who had been there the whole time, he developed a drug issue, and he promptly destroyed his apartment, and he promptly got evicted after 12 months, and we followed all the law, and he felt very motivated to leave, and he left, And we felt very motivated to strip it down to bare boards and redo the whole thing. So we chose to make capital investment and redo the whole thing and do it right. Does that make sense? And so it kind of took some of our capital account and it lowered our cash on cash return. Make sense? Okay. Now, the total return, assuming no gain in the property value, was still 22.08% in 2023. Pretty good. Yeah? Now, let me tell you the 12 unit. 3 partners invested. Well, I didn't update this whole thing. Sorry. I did not do the 12 unit. Sorry. But I want to tell you lessons learned on my 14 unit. First thing is a best practice. You need to have a good operating managing agreement. So there's 3 partners. We're equal 33%, 33.33%, but somebody's got to be a decision maker. So we made one of them the manager. If you're entering into a financing agreement on a multi-unit apartment complex, the bank is going to demand an operating agreement. They are going to demand it because they want to know how decisions will be made and they want it to be legally defined before they lend the money, okay? So any attorney can find those. You can also find good basic documents at LegalZoom.com, okay? Secondly, we have quarterly investor updates. So the management firm has a quarterly meeting set up. It's a 1-hour meeting. They show all the list of maintenance stuff that happened. Here's the income. Here's the outgo. Here's your average rents. Here's the leases that are coming due in the next quarter and what they feel like we could do on rent increases. That quarterly update is really important to us, okay? The third thing is we maintain strong cash margin because you never know when somebody's going to destroy an apartment, right? You never know when you'll have a hailstorm and the insurance company is going to pay half the cost of the roof, but you have to pay the other half, okay? The fourth thing that I would tell you is verify your survey or your GIS, whatever your survey is. You want to make sure that you know what that is. That can really make a huge difference. Like, there have been people that have bought property and they just took the GIS from the website as if it was the survey and the gospel. It is not the gospel. And they found out they didn't own what they thought they did. And so you want to make sure that you know that you know. So I would just tell you, pay for the survey. So before I logged my 238 acres, I paid a survey. Because the GIS said that I owned a bunch of white oak. Well, white oak is very valuable. I don't know if you know that white oak is very, very valuable. It's one of the most valuable trees in the forest other than black walnut. And the GIS said that we owned it, but I was looking at the plat and saying, I don't know that we own this. I'm real glad I paid a surveyor, because if I had chopped down my neighbor's white oaks, that would have been real bad. They're like 80-year-old white oaks. That would have cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars of restitution. So it was worth $3,500 to pay for the survey. Make sense? I was mad and sad that I didn't own them, but, you know, I also found out I'd been hunting on my neighbor's property, which was a problem. I stopped doing that the instant I knew. Okay, and the fifth thing here is seek professional help. Are professionals expensive? Yes or no? Okay, so here's my statement. If you think hiring a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur. Ho! I feel the Spirit of the Lord in this place. Pay the person their due money. I want everybody making money. Woo, I threw that out. I want everybody making money. You want everybody making money? I'm not going to complain about somebody making a quarter if I'm making a nickel, or vice versa, but everybody at the table has to make money. My closing attorney needs to make money, right? My operating agreement attorney needs to make money. Surveyor, the forester, the logger, the CPA, the banker, the property manager, everybody's got to make money. So, seek professional help. It is worth it. The other thing I would encourage you to do is you're evaluating a deal, have a page called Assumptions, and write down your assumptions as you go. Because sometimes you'll forget, you know, what were we thinking? What information did we know? What did we not know? So write down your assumptions as you go and document all the information you're relying on and where you got that information. It's so helpful, especially as you go back and evaluate how did our deal work, okay? And be prepared for a couple things. Where we bought this, property taxes fund schools in most cases. Make sense? Where we bought these apartment complexes, same county, the school district has an attorney on their staff. And any real estate transaction that happens by March 31 in a year gets sued for a new tax assessment. If it happens after that, they sue them the next year. Okay? And we showed up, and they sued us to pay $7,000 more in taxes per year. $7,000 more. So we show up. My representative showed up, my attorney. And he said, this isn't going to work, but I'll go. I was like, okay, thanks for going. So he shows up, and they said, on what basis are you saying don't charge $7,000 more? And he said, because the owners don't want to. How do you think that went? It went over like a submarine with screen doors. And they said, what evidence to the school's attorney? Why should they pay more? Well, they paid this amount, so we want it assessed for this value. Gavel goes down, you owe $7,000 more. Did I pay $7,000 more? Who paid $7,000 more? The tenants did. Your rent is now. So let's do the math. You ready? Let's do $7,000. $7,000. We want affordable housing for the neighborhoods. Great. Stop charging more taxes. $7,000 divided by 14 units, $500 more a unit. Let's divide that by 12 months. Your rent increase is $41.67 more. You want to know why? Go talk to your county. Make sense? Because, newsflash, if you're paying rent, you're paying the property taxes, you're paying the does this make sense? So I just really encourage you to think about that. That was a big deal. We were not prepared for that. So I encourage you to think about that. Also, maintenance requests. Look at the history of it. What's repeating? What's happening over and over and over and over again? And maybe you just want to get out in front of it and fix them all. As I mentioned, if the same faucet has failed five of them, just get them, buy them bulk, and have them sitting on the shelf, because it's just going to happen. The other thing that we found is we have a guy named Vladimir who showed up. Vladimir is from Ukraine. He does not like America. He loves it. He loves America. He's been in America for about 12 years, and he said, I have a brother who's checking on this property. We invested in it together, and Vladimir shows up and says, do you want me to cover these windows with plastic? I do it every winter, to make sure that no cold comes in. There's window units in these. And my brother says, well, how much is it? And he said, I charge $6 a window. $6 times 14, a whole $84? Yes. And he said, hey, I used to do it for the other guy at all of his other units too, and I hear you bought this other one. And we have an amazing relationship with Vladimir. And Vladimir knows the history of the apartment complex. He has the legacy knowledge. Does that make sense? So even stuff that's not written down, Vladimir can help us with the history of this unit, of these different units. It's very important. And then, are there tenant issues? Are you going to have tenant issues? Yeah. So know the laws of your state, know the laws of that county, eviction laws, right? How do you deal with tenant issues? During COVID, we missed 0 months of rent ever. 0 months. So now there were 2 tenants that we know of that got COVID assistance because they got COVID. It was long haul. And so there was some COVID assistance that helped them pay the rent for 4 months. So that was helpful to them. And we also would say we have 2 people that are getting assistance, housing assistance, okay? And they don't get fully paid by HUD, Housing and Urban Development, but they pay a portion of it. Does that make sense? And so that has been a wonderful partnership for our apartments as well. Okay? So with that, I wanted to share all that. What questions do you have? Did I have coffee? No, my coffee went out. I have water. I'll take questions. Yes, in the back. I'm sorry? Great question. So, is it more profitable to do single family or multi-unit? In the beginning. I will tell you, that depends on the deal. It depends on the area that you're in. But I will tell you, it's generally easier to start with a single family or a duplex, something, or a fourplex, something that is able to be done with a conforming mortgage. Conforming mortgages are, the vast majority of mortgages, and they have a very committed process at banks. It's a known process for approval, known process for assessment of that deal. And so that's where most people start. And like my twin brother started with 3 single families, then he went to a 4-unit, then he went to multi-unit. And if you listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast, you'll find most people start with single families and then build their way up from there to go to multi-unit. I just chose to save up more cash and jump straight to multi-unit because I knew me, and single families were much more difficult for me personally to manage. But it really does depend upon the individual and what your appetite is for that type of real estate. Great question. Any other questions? Yes. Do you ever use hard money lending for distress or do distressed properties? So a couple things. I've done owner financing twice, okay? So my land deal for the 68 acres, I did owner financing. I had the money to pay for all of it, the 80K, but the guy said, hey, look, if you'll just do it on a term loan until you go to get bank financing, but all the banks are like, we own a bunch of land that we've had to foreclose on, so we're not gonna lend on it. So I went to him and did a 5-year deal with him. I gave him $20,000 down, and then I did a 5-year at 6%. I paid it off in 21 months, okay? This 238 acres, I said, hey, I could pay for it, but I put it subject to financing because interest rates were so low. And I thought I could go get financing, and they responded in the counteroffer, how about we finance it to you at 4% for 20 years? And so I was like, I'm just gonna do that. So I've done that. And then I did hard money lending, not for real estate, but to buy a small business. So I did hard money lending for that one. And the way I structured that deal was I said, you have to give a minimum of $50,000 into this deal, and I will pay you until you get double your money back. And if you don't have double your money back in 7 years, which is a minimum return of 12% a year really, then there are certain activators that get your money back to you within 8 years. And so I paid them off magically in just under 7 years. But I paid hard money lending prices. I didn't even know that that's what I was doing. I just knew I had an incredible deal in front of me, and that even at the prices I was paying for that capital, it was making money for me. I would tell you, in hard money lending deals, I did not give up any equity or any opportunity for equity in the deal, because I'm not a very good sharer of my small businesses. I'm a sharer of real estate, but I'm not a very good sharer of small businesses. And so I own 9 small businesses. I'm not a good sharer of those. I share a portion of one, 15% ownership. But, they have no say at 15% ownership because I have 85% ownership. It's a wonderful agreement. Everything I want to do, he says yes. And so it's been a wonderful relationship. But that's just me. It's my wiring. It's me knowing me. You need to know you. Great question. Any other questions? Yes. How am I finding my deals now? This is a really great question. I'm not finding many. Here's the thing. I was making this point earlier. This allows me to finish it. When I was doing these deals, 2011, 2010, 2016, 2020, 2021, interest rates were very low. The risk-free rate of money was 0.5%. Well, the risk-free rate of money now is 5 to 6%. I can get that rate of return with zero risk, FDIC insured, U.S. Treasuries, CDs, non-callable CDs. Make sense? So that has changed my risk tolerance that says I want a minimum of 9% cash on cash return now. But interest rates have not went down. Inexplicably, interest rates have stayed high and prices have stayed high. This is shocking to me. It makes no sense. And commercial property, I really thought would be in trouble. But there is so much money that has been stacked on the sideline that these giant units, when I'm talking mega units, 2,400 units, there was a 2,400 unit that went belly up in Houston, Texas, and it was an off-market deal. They went straight to another hedge fund that had a pile of cash, and they restructured the deal, and it was never put in the market. And they reckon right now that there's somewhere around $1 trillion standing ready to do real estate deals, so they don't think we're going to enter into anything like we had in 2007, 8, and 9, because everybody locked in interest rates on personal housing at 2.5% and 3%, and they were all at 30 years. The problem in 2007, 8, and 9 is they were locked very low, but only for 5 years, and then they were going to variable rate ARMs, and that doesn't exist this time. So the deals have not shown up. I still evaluate deals. I've got deals being sent to me from people that are dealing with commercial real estate. I was at Chick-fil-A the other day, and I saw the agents that are the power agents in our area. It's a husband and wife team, and I said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that's 20 to 40 units. And they were like, okay. That's not the first time I've told them that. And I've told them, send me their deals. But the deals that are being sent to me make no sense. I would also tell you this. When I'm evaluating deals right now, the asking price of sellers that I believe are actually distressed are, I don't know how to say it kindly. I call them crack smoking dream prices. I don't know. Is there a better way to say that? I mean, it's like, what are you talking about? No one can make money at that price if they buy it at that price with today's rates. So my twin purchased into a syndicate, so a big, large real estate syndicate. They just sent him a cash call. They're making them put more money in the deal right now, or he'll lose his ownership. And that's because they got in short-term commercial debt, and it's getting refinanced at much higher rates, and they are in bad shape. And so, it's not affecting him negatively. It affects him negatively in a corner, but it doesn't affect him overall. And that's when I really encourage you to, constantly look at deals. You'll know when they start to turn. In the meantime, stack your opportunity fund. Maybe you can find other opportunities. To answer your question a little bit, I have found, I did not share 2 of my real estate deals. I have found opportunity in commercial real estate. So commercial real estate has been very challenged. A lot of people, the return to work didn't happen nearly as much. A lot of people stayed at home. People aren't re-upping in their rents. They're actually scaling down. And I found that the single office or duplex offices have been a lot of people have went to those from larger offices. And so I've bought 3 offices, duplex ones. And in those duplexes, there's an upstairs and downstairs that you can actually key off. So you can actually rent upstairs and downstairs. They each have their own bathrooms. They have multiple offices. But I've actually found that I've rented to individual businesses for each side, and they use the up-down. So I have bought 3 of them in the last 2 years. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on, is commercial property. It has made sense for me in the last 3 years. Yeah. Any other questions? I'll add one other component and then I'll hand it back to Pastor. Be interested in real estate that may not be around your house. Just because things may not be priced right here doesn't mean they're not priced right there. And in particular, maybe it's a place you love to visit. And if you're investing there and you're checking on your real estate, you might be able to write off your travel to that place as a business. Does that make sense? So you might have a short-term rental or whatever it is at the beach, and you're at the beach, but you're actually checking on your real estate, and you can write off the trip legally because you are checking on it. And so I would encourage you to check that out as well, or look at other markets that are emerging markets, that are starting to look like, I will tell you an area I'm looking at right now is Pikeville, Kentucky. I'm looking at Pikeville, Kentucky. Why am I looking at Pikeville, Kentucky in East Appalachia, Kentucky? Number one, I love that area. Number two, it's 4 hours from my house, so I like it. I can go see it pretty easily. But they have put a brand new med school there, a state-run med school. Kentucky's putting the money behind it. Now they've opened a dental school. So, and they're talking about opening an optometry school. And guess what? When medical students move in, they're there for 4 years, and they don't want to move once they get there. And so you'll get long-term leases, and I've found there's been some success renting around med schools. And so I'm looking at that marketplace, okay? So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found it helpful. I will send this presentation to Pastor, and then he can get it sent out to you guys to be able to make sure that you have access to it, and my analysis tool as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And to answer some of your questions when you were asking about the financing, sometimes it's just you have to know what works for you in that moment. And you have to be able to be flexible. Like I was going to do a deal that I was working on because it's one of my investors. And sometimes, we get tired of houses. Sometimes you get tired of a house and they just want to sell it, even though you're making money. Like, I'm just tired of this one. So you're not supposed to get emotional with real estate, but sometimes you do get tired of a particular house. And so I was going to do a subject to. I love doing subject twos because I just give you some money and I let the loan stay in your name. And that's when I do, especially when I'm doing a long-term rental, I like doing that without putting it on my credit. I like, keeping it on yours, but I'll pay it, and I get all the benefits of the write-offs. But this one I was, okay, I know I'm going to flip it because I know they don't really want to keep it that long, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip the house. But when I got into the situation, I realized it's going to cost me $30,000 to fix it up instead of $10,000 once we got into it. So I said, all right, I'm going to lower the price a little bit now if you still want me to get it. But instead of me doing a subject to, because now I'm not going to make the spread I'm going to make. So if I do a subject to, I still got to pay, like, the mortgage, like, $1,000 a month. So if it takes me 2 months or 3 months to fix it up and get ready to flip it or whatnot, take me a month, say it take me 3 weeks to fix up and it's on the market because you remember them COVID days over. You can sell a house, as soon as you throw it up, it be sold in 2 hours. You like, dude. But so I said, if I had to end up paying 2 months mortgage to them, that's $2,000 I'm going to lose. So because I have it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and pay cash with it. Even though it's going to tie up my cash, at the end of the day, I still make at least $26,000 off the deal because I didn't want to make less than $26,000. But if I had to pay a month or two of mortgage, I'm going to make $24,000, and I don't want that spread because really only like $50,000 spreads when I'm flipping. But because this is my member and they were just tired of the house, I said I'll go ahead and step in and do it. But I don't want to do the subject to. Why? Because I have to pay on it. It makes sense if I don't have the capital. But since I have the capital, let me go ahead and do that because I want to walk away with a certain amount of money. You understand? So it's all about evaluating hard money lending. Overflow investments, we do it now. That's me. But it's nothing wrong with doing hard money lending if you have a plan. If you have a plan. Because he's nice. This is a nice guy right here. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Randolph. But he will foreclose on you. He's really nice, though. And he does a lot of hard money loans, but he will say, oh, he's so polite with it, but he will put you out. But it's all about having a plan. If you know it's going to take you about 6 months or so to fix the house up and flip it, and you got a good contractor, and you have somebody helping you walk through the deal, then it's good to do that, because at the end, is you risking his money and not yours, and you're not paying that much down to get it anyway. You understand? So you don't have to use as much capital. So it's so many different ways to invest. And someone asked about the apartment buildings. The best place to start is where you can afford. Now, if you can afford a house and not an apartment complex, by all means, don't try to do the apartment complex. If you can get a group of people together and you can work it out, you will make money in real estate, but what you need to do is pray about it and figure out what your niche is. I can help walk you through it. I do these workshops for free because I always want our people and other people to make money. So many different ways to make money, and a lot of times minorities aren't exposed to ways to make money besides 9-to-5s. And I want you to be able to, you won't become a millionaire if you're doing a 9-to-5 job only, unless you are running a airport or something like that. You understand? You over a plane company, or you're just getting paid millions because you're in some type of media. But I want you to become millionaires. I want you to be paid. That's why I do workshops like this for free a lot. My Overflow investors, I get them a little more insight on certain things. Some of you all, we just did our second meeting, and I'll make sure I talk to you after class and let you know we will have our next meeting as well, and we'll have other people that come in that go even more in depth of what it is that you want to do in order to become more financially stable when it comes to investing, okay? And also, I'm going to just let y'all know this, it's also a way some people may not want to buy a house. You might not want to do it, but you may want to invest in it. So you can, if you want to put in certain monies and invest with me, I allow you to do that. Only because they work for me, I'm going to give them a plug too. My people over here, Tawana, starting a female group as well for investors, and she can help you as well. So I always want to teach people how to curate wealth, because I believe God says, and he does say it, that he wishes above all things that you be prosperous and in good health, even as your soul prospers. What does that mean? Your soul. That means you need to study something. You need to learn. You need to find a mentor. You need to find someone who can do the things that you want to do and who's already doing it well. I call Brother Single in because I sell commercial properties, but I haven't really bought a commercial property on my own because I'm doing well with just buying houses and flipping houses and duplexes here and there. But eventually I will buy if something comes up and it's a great deal. But I'm going to tell you how y'all can find deals. You ain't finding no deals, Brother Joe. I'm going to tell you how to find deals. Talk to Maxwell Realty. We'll find deals for you all day. That's what we do, baby. That's what we do. Anyway, I'm going to end with this. Thank y'all so much. Shout out to the people who came to the 9 to 12 for us to teach our members how to do budgets and make and take care of their finances. Thank you so much for coming at 1. Is that Chelsea in the back? That's you? What? There go one more Maxwell Realty agent in the back. Miss Chelsea in the house, Miss Tawana's daughter. It's Chelsea, right? All right, I don't know if it was Chelsea, or you know how Negroes be just pronouncing all stuff wrong. But anyway, we're going to pray. If y'all have any questions of me, if you want to learn how to invest in Overflow investments to make 10% return as you go, or if you want to learn how you can go in with me directly on the house, see me. If you want to learn about Miss Tawana, she's doing her thing too with females, all this sexism going on. Just women. They just got the women thing. We can't even work out. They had an all-female workout. I'm like, they got a male pastor, and we ain't got no power whatsoever. They just had an all-female workout, and they got an all-female. So look here, I'm an equal opportunity investor, whether you male, female, or don't know what you are. Hallelujah. I hopefully deliver you, but at the end of the day, if you're not, you can still invest with Maxwell Realty. Amen. Lord, thank you so much for your power and grace. We thank you for the teaching. We ask for you, Lord, to allow us to get understanding in all our getting so that we may be able to be safe in a safe place to create money and wealth for our